Hey, what's up, guys? Josh and Nick here with Neek Game Break, ready to discuss Uncharted 4, the latest
Woo!
masterpiece from Naughty Dog Studios. I know that makes Nick excited, Mr. Nathan Drake himself, because Nick has cosplayed as him fantastically.
I appreciate that.
Nick, how are you today?
I'm doing well. I am doing well, Josh. How are you? It's been a hot minute. It feels like.
It's been a hot minute since you and I were on a show together.
Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and dive straight on in. Enough with the pleasantries. Uncharted 4,
Yes.
the follow-up to Naughty Dog's phenomenal game in 2013, The Last of Us, the culmination of Nathan Drake's journey, our first Uncharted since 2011.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
how was it picking up the controller for the first time for this?
It feels good. There was some concerns like, oh boy, because they kept pushing the date back, like when it's going to be released, and we're all panicking. And then, Amy Hennig, she left the project a while ago, and she was the creative genius on this. So we were like, this is going to be one of those games that you're hoping for the best, and you're just going to like it because it's Uncharted, But God, it feels so good to play, and it's just you're right there in it, It's awesome. So
Right now, you're just a little bit into the game.
yeah.
You're and so full disclosure right now, anything that happens up through chapter 4 of the game, we will be discussing just the first 3 or 4 chapters. After that, it'll be really vague. We won't discuss any major plot points. We will talk about some of the character relationships, though, and how they relate to the series as a whole. Now, Nick, you're an Uncharted super fan.
Yes.
Based off what you've played at the beginning, the introduction we get, the insight to the backstory of Nathan Drake, this really adds another layer to that legend.
Yeah.
Does it feel organic, or does it feel like it's being shoehorned in your opinion?
No, I like it. And that's not just me being biased. I really like what they do going back to, his early days. And they did it in the third one. And I feel like they've done it so well in each of the Uncharted. You played 2 just recently.
Yeah.
And I know they do a lot more in 3 where you're actually as, like pre-pubescent Drake and kind of going through the city and, his meeting with Sully and everything. And I love the story with him and Sam and how they're showing more and more as we go through,
Right. It's very clear, this relationship that's driving, because, correct me if I'm wrong, I've played most of 1. I've basically beaten 2 at this point. I've got 1 level to go, and then I'll be diving into Drake's Deception. Sam is never mentioned.
Right.
So it kind of came out. It kind of comes out of left field in a way. If we hadn't seen any of the trailers, I had only seen 2 instances of promotionals for this product, which was the original E3 trailer in 2014,
right,
and then the demo at PSX that year. I did not watch anything else for the game personally.
Right.
So I came in with completely. I didn't have expectations. I bought it because I enjoyed The Last of Us so much on PS3 that I needed to play this. And a few of y'all have busted my balls about this, that I jumped in on the 4th one to start it. I really, really, really am enjoying seeing the relationship between Nathan and Sam develop, though. It feels organic, and if I didn't know any better, I would have thought that he was like a long-running part of the series. That's how good it seamlessly came in to me.
Yeah, they've done that a couple times. When they introduced Chloe and Harry in the second one, it's just characters that he's known for a while, but they're not, like you said, they just seamlessly just come right into the plot, and you're like, oh, these people have been in his life for forever. And I think, God, Naughty Dog is so good at doing that, like with The Last of Us, their flagship game for Last System, just introducing characters that you're like, I know these people. These are, I love them, and they're just awesome characters. So
exactly. And I love that you bring up The Last of Us, because with the departure of Amy Hennig, there was a lot of questions about this game.
Yeah.
That's been one of the hot debates in the community for several years now, especially, it was in wake of The Last of Us. The rumors were that Neil Druckmann and Bruce Stanley had kind of forced her out. They had taken a much more prominent role in the company following The Last of Us, and they all worked on Uncharted 2 and 3 together, I believe, also.
Yeah.
She personally felt slighted, and is not at liberty to discuss it since she works for EA and Visceral now. If that happened, and that was said to be one of the things that contributed to the delays, otherwise this probably would have come out sometime in 2015,
right,
possibly last summer. would you even have known had they not announced it? Would you have even known that Amy Hennig was not on this project?
No, they did so well, and you can attest to this. Like I said, going back and playing the other games now, how closely the themes follow and just the feel of it. Really, they try to really stick with the feel they've had with him, his personality. I think they said, you know what, even though the teams kind of parted ways, we don't have her because that was her baby. Nathan Drake was her, her thought child. And they said, you know what, let's maybe still pay homage and definitely like go down the route that she trailblazed for us, And I really appreciate that because, like I said, I was scared. I love this game. And, you start hearing about this is it. They're going to be, this is the culmination of everything. Hopefully that doesn't mean that they're just throwing it together to give the fans something to kind of end on. But what a well thought out game so far that I've seen. And I know you've finished it and you can definitely attest. It's just a phenomenal story. So.
Right. It really is. I mean, it really does feel like the end of the tale of Nathan Drake, as we know Nathan. And, as you get farther into the game and you get into the later stages of it, the subtitle A Thief's End starts to take on a whole different meaning.
That's what I've heard, yeah.
It's really cool. It didn't take on the meaning that I thought it would, and that, the original teaser trailer seemed to imply, and what little footage I had seen implied. It was very different from what I expected, and I liked that. It was very exciting. It was very thrilling. I think it's chapter 11 features one of my favorite sequences in gaming in the last 5 years.
Wow.
And I hadn't played Uncharted 2 or 3, and playing 2, I was telling Ray, I was messaging him as I was playing. I was just like, oh wow, oh wow, oh wow. I had this so many times in Uncharted 4. I was the first one of the hosts to finish it. It was really special, but I was like, I have nobody I can talk to about this. This is a game that I really think, like, for the story and for the characters, everybody needs to play, whether if you played the previous ones or not. You just have some basic knowledge of the characters, you're going to enjoy it.
Right. Now, I was going to ask you that, too, because I'm one that, played from the start to finish, but you're one that started with this game and went back to play. Would you say that players need to start from, the originals to go through to really get what he's, how it's finishing?
I think it's definitely going to be a lot more impactful if you've played the other ones.
Right.
I knew exactly what happened in 1, 2, and 3. I knew what happened. I'd seen a lot of the cutscenes before. I knew all the characters before I even played. I knew Nathan, Elena, Sully, Harry and Chloe we mentioned earlier, Marlowe from Uncharted 3, Cutter.
3, yeah.
I knew all of them. I was very familiar with them. And that's why, when I started playing this, Sam feels like a natural addition. The other 2 new characters introduced in it, Rafe and Dean Ross, they feel like you've known them forever. Like you expected them to have shown up in a previous game.
Yeah.
And how the game ultimately concerns not just the future of Nathan Drake, but it's encompassing his entire history. And what does it mean to be a Drake? It's such a prominent driving force that it's beautiful.
Yeah, because I know that, most people, this isn't a spoiler at all, but a lot of people have seen the trailer where Sully mentions, he can't get out of this life, and just what you mentioned, like there's so much backstory. I know there's one scene in the beginning of the game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. He's walking through his office and he sees all the trinkets from past games. Like, I remember this, and he picks up a book or a photograph of him and Tenzin from Uncharted 2. And he looks and he says, wow. And, just little things that you're like, oh, my God, I remember that mission. And you're seeing his life.
The photographs, the letters.
The journal, yeah.
Some of the artifacts that I was seeing, since I had gotten about halfway through Uncharted 1, I was like, oh, I remember finding a couple of these.
Yeah.
Like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And it took me a second to realize, oh, they're stuff from all 3 games, and it's not just from Uncharted 1. At first, I thought that was a really cool way of tying in what treasures I had found in the Nathan Drake collection, which I still think would have been a really cool idea. But moving on, from the cast of characters and from the story, because otherwise we're going to start getting into some spoiler territory. The mission structure. Uncharted has always been known for its big action set pieces, I guess you could say. Not always. Since Uncharted 2, it's become a staple of the series. Uncharted 1, no. but two, the infamous train sequence, especially the hotel sequence. I was telling Ray when I played that for the first time, that was the one I was going, oh wow, oh wow, oh wow. Like, it's an example of expert level building. I'm sure they improved upon that in Drake's Deception. From what I heard, it's like a full on movie.
Oh yeah.
This one very much feels like it. We go to several different locales. There's one mission to begin with that's pretty much entirely underwater, which is really awesome.
Really cool looking. Yep.
Yeah, it's really cool looking. Of course, there's vehicular missions. It's Uncharted. And I mentioned that Chapter 11 has one of my all-time favorite sequences already, in terms of level design, and then you get pumped. You have so much adrenaline coming in. And I found out later on that a lot of that was shown in a PSX demo that I had seen bits and pieces of, but I had never seen the full thing. It was what was shown at PSX last fall. That's the second half of that mission.
Gotcha.
Very, very cool. You're flying through the busy streets. You and Sully are in a Jeep flying through the streets. You got these armored trucks pursuing you. You're trying to lose them. And eventually Nate grapples onto a truck and is being dragged across the water, trying to miss the platforms. Very, very, very cool level. I died a lot. It's not hard. It's not easy to die. So I'm just not good at it.
And plus, you don't know what's about to happen. Like, every little bit is just something brand new that's kind of hitting you. So,
right. Yeah. And I mean, like, the second half of the game took everything I expected to have from the first half and turned it on its head. Mm-hmm. Even in a way that I haven't found the first or second Uncharted titles to do. To me, it didn't really take a twist, but you can sense, Nate's at one time his eagerness, because him and Sam are tracking down, trying to track stuff down together, and then you feel his reluctance also because like, he's supposed to be out of this game.
Yeah.
It's the promise he made to Elena at the beginning. He's retired. He's out of this life. And of course, it all concerns the history of the Drake family. And I love how they tied all that seamlessly together. Now, of course, for the big question.
Yes.
Is it as gorgeous as people say?
I totally. I think it's probably the best looking title on current gen so far. I think it's safe to say 100%. That. Yeah. 100%. I thought The Witcher, I'm a huge Witcher fan. I was like, this looks gorgeous, but this game has that Christmas, and the voice acting, the mouth movement to the voice acting is spot on. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's the sound design and the visual design are they're on another level. I mean, it reminds me of the first time I saw The Last of Us. I'm gonna have to keep comparing those two. When I first saw that 3 years ago, and I was like, wow, this is a PS3 game. I'm one of those. I think the PS4 version is the definitive one, the remastered edition. But with this one, it's like Uncharted 4 is undoubtedly it is the best looking game. It has some of the best sound design. Every gun sounds distinctly different. If something shoots off in the distance, like it echoes, it rings out, and it's very eerie. The physics are amazing.
Oh yeah.
I love nothing more than hanging off a ledge, grabbing somebody and throwing them to their death, and as they're falling, you hear the Willem scream as they're going.
Yeah.
It's very cool. The cover dynamics, the grappling hook. I'm sure I'm riding the struggle bus now, playing the old ones. So I'm like, oh my god, where's my grappling hook?
Yeah.
Like this
new feature they added. Yeah.
The game.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can only use it in some areas, but I mean, it added a new dynamic for puzzles and everything else. It's just, I love the emphasis on puzzles in Uncharted 4. Also, another example of the impeccable level design. Mm-hmm. Most of them aren't particularly hard, but they're fun. I never once found myself getting super frustrated at a puzzle. Yeah. There's one towards the end. It's annoying.
Yeah.
It's a little annoying, but once you figure it out, it's like, oh, yeah, okay.
And you're proud of yourself. There's been a couple games like that it breaks up the, I don't even want to say monotony because it's not, but it breaks up the, the fighting what you're used to, like Castlevania, Lords of Shadow did that. You're slaughtering demons, and then they throw you into a puzzle room where it takes maybe 15, 20 minutes to move pieces around. And it's nice to be like, okay, I'm not fighting right now. I'm just trying to, and Uncharted did that in each of their games. 1 or 2 rooms, where you have to move things around and then do some climbing, some moving around to figure it out. But yeah, that's been a staple of these games, and that's great. Just so it's not we're an action game and that's all you get to do.
Right. And I love that you mentioned climbing. The climbing mechanics in this game, to me, feel the most refined out of the series. It's like they finally hit that fine tune. Like he's leaping around like he's a leprechaun on these walls. It's pretty fantastic at times. Like I just sit there and keep tapping A and push my thumbstick forward. And he's like, he's jumping all over the place.
Yeah.
So all that being said, Nick, have you had a chance to try the multiplayer yet?
Not yet, no. And I played 2 and 3. I played the hell out of those betas when the multiplayer came out. This one, what do you think? I mean, I haven't gotten to try it yet.
So I haven't either. That's why I was asking. I have not had a chance to move on to the multiplayer. I literally beat Uncharted 4 and then got Doom the next day.
Right.
To start trying to get through that. I go on vacation in 2 days. Trying to get through both of these has been a real test. But I've heard nothing but great things about the multiplayer. That if you've liked it in the series before, then you'll really like it. I'm not a huge multiplayer guy, really. It takes a special game for me to get into the multiplayer. I probably will give this one a try. For nothing else, the Trials mode sounds really intriguing to me. I am excited to give that a whirl. I think they brought back some of the old characters from the series in multiplayer also, if I was reading it correctly.
Yeah.
So I remember there being a big dispute with the voice actor who does Harry Flynn.
Harry, yeah. He was upset that he wasn't invited back. I remember reading that, yeah.
And he said he wasn't invited back. Naughty Dog rep said he was. He wanted too much money, this and that. It's whatever. So that being said, we're going to start wrapping up here in a minute. Do you really think this is going to be it for Nathan Drake?
I was reading a little bit about this. Of course, Nolan North, his tearful goodbye, he basically said this is one character. He's not ready to give up. And, you have Troy Baker and Nolan North. These are like 2 giants of the voice acting world, and he said, like, just a few hours ago, I think it was, he said, if they wanted to do 5, I'm down, and I don't know. I mean, it's all up to them at this point. Like, if they want to continue this story, maybe pick a different character, go with a different character, or I don't know.
We know this is the first Uncharted game to have single-player DLC coming. To my knowledge, at least, it's the first one with single-player DLC. I don't remember there ever being story DLC.
Nothing else on the other ones. Just small little trinkets and stuff, but yeah, no DLC.
We have no idea what it's about yet. Personally, I think it's going to be some sort of venture involving Sam, because they keep saying this is the end of Nathan Drake's story and this and that. There's a lot of room when you get to the end of the game with several of the characters that could take the proverbial torch from Nate and have Nate, almost take on a Sully-like role.
Right.
Kind of cameo in and out. Like, oh, maybe he's there at the beginning and then he shows up at the end. A solid 4 or 5 hour DLC, kind of infamous First Light. Maybe that could act as a standalone. There's definitely more to do in this world.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to be vague to avoid spoilers. There comes a point, though, when you're playing that, okay, there's definitely ways they can continue this franchise, and that Nate would not have to be at the center of it.
Right.
He'd still have to be involved in some way, but he wouldn't have to be at the center of it. And we brought up Chloe earlier. Chloe is one of the characters. There's several characters I'd love to see return in this series.
Yeah.
That personally I find really intriguing and I think could be fleshed out more. If we got her and Cutter in a DLC, I'd be so happy.
And I kind of was going to say that before. Yeah, her. I think that's probably what the DLC would be. Is her, because from what I understand, their story is a little open-ended at the moment. So
yeah. In fact, when you were talking about the attic scene, one of the letters that Nick picks up is her asking for his help. On a hunt.
Yeah.
So that that was really cool to me, especially just now playing Uncharted 2, seeing their relationship evolve. That's definitely someone I'd want to see come back into the fold. I think it'd be really interesting. Maybe if Nate and Sully show up just for the heck of it while you're playing as her. Um, there's so much left to do in that world, but at the same time, if after the single player DLC, this is it, I could never ask for more.
Yeah.
We got an unprecedented run of 4 games that technically 5 if we count Golden Abyss on the Vita.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really count it personally.
No.
You look at the 4 core games, and I don't remember the last time a system had an exclusive, or a system family had an exclusive where all 4 games were so good that the lowest rated was like a 9.2.
And and increasingly got better. Like usually it's, this one's great, this one's okay, but it gets better as you play.
I mean, and that's the thing. I was saying this when I went and played, I think Uncharted 4 is an absolute masterpiece. It's an absolute bona fide masterpiece. But so is Uncharted 2.
Yeah.
And, I'm really excited to get I don't get to Drake's Deception until I get back in town. But I am almost afraid of it being on the level of 2, which a lot of people put it like just barely below 2. It's like, how do you rank these? I've literally never had a series where I've had to go, I don't know how to rank these 4 games.
Yeah.
Aside from Drake's Fortune is like number 4 on my list.
Yeah. And that's still even because each game, like you said, each game has their moments. Like 2, it's the train. The first one to me is it's like the Nazi zombie level where you're underground, remember, and you're kind of in the dark, kind of doing your thing, and that's what really sold me on the game. It's toward the end where you're almost fighting off these demon-like creatures in the dark, trying to get to where Elena is. And I was like, I'm done. This is amazing.
I'm hoping to get to that point before long. I'm currently frustrated at the second jet ski part.
Yeah.
That I will say, as much as I think these games are great, that part has aged so poorly. I went back and read reviews, and that was a complaint from day 1 in 2007.
Really?
It has not changed in 9 years.
It's like the equivalent of like the Battletoads jumping level where you're like trying to.
Oh my god!
You remember that? Remember that garbage?
It's bad. I mean, I like I was telling Ryan, I said, maybe I'm just not meant to finish this game. I'm getting really irritated. He goes, nope. This is what he even told me. He's like, dude, just suffer through number 1 because 2 and 3 are so good.
Yeah.
And it's true. So wrapping up, because you and I could sit here and talk about the greatness of the series all day. Preliminarily, where you are, what you've heard, what you've watched. I know you've probably watched some streams on Twitch.
Yeah.
Where would you preliminarily want to slot number 4 at as a super fan?
Like out of the 4?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would honestly say, wow. Yeah. Right now, I would say 2 is definitely the top because Among Thieves just has such that train. There's so many scenes and like the ending to that, and you haven't beaten it yet, so I don't want to give too much away.
Right.
But just there's so much emotional investment, like each of the games had. But 2, the way it brings everything together, and then probably 4, 3, then 1. Because 1, like you said, it was in the beginning of the system's history, 2007. They were still getting used to everything. They didn't know what they were going to do with it yet.
Yeah.
But once they got to 2, it's like they knew, they had it together. And, God, they killed it. So probably 2, 4, 3, 1.
Okay.
Yeah. What about you? What's your ranking?
Well, I mean, I really don't want to comment on that until I've done number 3.
That's right. You got to get to 3, yeah.
2 and 4 are pretty close for me. I think I'm always going to have a slight bias towards number 4 right now because it's, it was the first one I finished all the way. I got really emotionally invested into the story, even not having played the other 3 all the way to completion. It's a very moving tale, especially if you know anything about these characters. And finally beating it, I was like, okay, now I understand what the hype is around this series. So that being said, we've talked about it before. Naughty Dog, the incredible game The Last of Us. They're known for Crash Bandicoot, for the Jack and Daxter series.
Yeah.
Now Uncharted and The Last of Us. there's absolutely, if there was ever a question, I don't know how there was a question after Among Thieves, Drake's Deception, and The Last of Us all came out in a row. But if there was any doubt that they're the premier first-party studio and one of the top 2 to 3 developers in the industry, all those doubts should be gone. For me, the only developers that have as consistent of a track record as them are Blizzard and Rockstar.
Yeah.
You can't match the greatness that they've done. I'm really excited to see what they do next. Obviously, we know a Last of Us sequel is going to happen at some point.
And talk about a sequel that has to live up to the first, and that's going to be really rough. So,
I mean, I went back and I was reading a lot on the build up to Drake's Deception, and then of course I've followed everything from The Last of Us through A Thief's End.
Right.
They're again and again they defy these expectations. There's some people who think Drake's Deception is better. You yourself have even said there's days when sometimes you think Deception is better than Among Thieves. It's just when you have to sit here and debate that because they're just so good across the board. That's when you are in the vicinity of a legendary developer. Like this developer that, for better, has changed the industry forever. Through their characters, through their storytelling, their visuals, their sound design. I mean, everything is impeccably done in these games. And having Naughty Dog, us getting to experience those games is something so special, I think. So with Uncharted presumably coming to an end, and we know Last of Us sequel is coming, would you ever like to see him go back to Jak and Daxter? Just kind of a random question for you.
Man, I would. I think so. Yeah, because I know a lot of people enjoy those, and for the kid, I mean, they're great. Not even just for the kids. Like you liked them, right? And
I love them.
Crash Bandicoot. So I mean, I wish they would do an updated version and get back to that. It's just it's awesome.
I wish they could. They don't have the rights to Crash anymore.
Right.
And I don't want to give away. I think there's a really cool Easter egg in Uncharted that had me jumping and squealing for joy. Practically.
Yeah, the way that they do it too.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's another example of them just being that developer.
And that moment that you're talking about was solely for the gamer, completely 100% for the gamer.
So I guess I'll kind of lead us out on this. Yeah. Uncharted 4, both of us recommend you play it, obviously. For me, this is my preliminary front runner, and I don't see anything else coming out this year beating it, right, as of this moment right now, for Game of the Year. This is an absolute masterpiece. This is one of the few games I will say every single man, woman, and child who even has a passing interest in video games or just in good storytelling, from a technical standpoint, storytelling, level design, whatever, like you need to play this.
Yeah, for sure.
This is really kind of the first game I guess I can say that about, since I'm a huge Fallout fan, but this is really the first game since The Last of Us I think that I can say that about.
Yeah.
It is the game this generation. I'll look at you and say you need to buy a console just to play Uncharted.
Right.
I bought my PlayStation 4 about a year and a half ago for 2 games, The Last of Us and Uncharted 4. Having never played an Uncharted game before, from the moment I saw that teaser at E3, I was like, I need to be playing this. And then I bought it 3 or 4 days before PSX. And when I saw that trailer or the gameplay footage for the first time where he's using the grapple hook, I was like, yep.
Sold. Yeah.
Yep. I just paid $400 and it's going to end up being a great investment. I give Ray a hard time a lot because he loves his PlayStation. And I'm starting to understand why. I'll always love my Xbox, but then you have these twice in a generation game come along. And when it's the same studio that keeps putting out those experiences, the PS2 era, one of my favorite trilogies was Jak.
Yeah.
PS1, Crash Bandicoot.
Mm-hmm.
I joked on Twitter, I was like, can I retroactively go back to Xbox 360, PS3 era and make Uncharted 2 like in my top 3 of that gen? Like, can I retroactively go back to that and put it with like The Last of Us and Skyrim?
Right.
Uncharted is the reason you should own a PS4. Everything else is extra at that point. Anything you play for the rest of the generation, or you go back to a backlog to play, is extra.
Yeah.
This is something that demands you buying a system.
And you're right. And they said like Uncharted, the second one, the third one became the PlayStation's flagship game.
Yeah.
Then The Last of Us came out and they said, oh my God, just when we thought that nothing could beat Nathan Drake, we have, Ellie and
Joel and Ellie.
Yeah. We were like, this is amazing. And everybody loved it. And now, right again, like Naughty Dog is the only company that actually beats themselves out with their titles,
Yeah. They've been on a constant uphill climb. I mean, when, in my opinion, the worst is a horrible word to use, least exciting title that they've done since Crash Team Racing is the original Uncharted.
Yeah.
That is a phenomenal run.
Oh, yeah.
They've never made a bad game. I mean, when you look at objective, they have never made a bad game, not even once. I'm excited. I want to see what the studio does next. So, Nick, any final thoughts on Uncharted 4, the legacy of Naughty Dog, whatever?
Just, I'm so excited for this. Like I said, I love the character Nathan Drake. For those that don't know, you got your Commander Shepards. You got these people that are just, the badasses, so to speak. Then you got your everyman, who's Nathan Drake, who just gets by with his wit and sheer luck. Because once you play these games, it is luck a lot of times that gets him through. And he knows it. He's a character that says, my God, I don't know how we got through that. And that's what I love about him. He's just, just down-to-earth guy. The game looks amazing. The soundtrack for it, like you mentioned, is phenomenal. Just Nate's
already ordered it on vinyl.
Nate's theme 4.0. Each game has the same theme in the beginning. You can play it in your head if you know it. And the fourth one just does it beautifully, and it's a send-off because each one has a little twist. The art design, the sound, just the story. Like I said, just to send it off. If you're a fan of, I like the story, I don't really care about the graphics. Or some people say, I don't care what the story is. I just like a good-looking game. This combines the best of both. It's a great-looking game, and the story's always been amazing. Definitely go get this.
All right. Well, you heard it straight from the Uncharted superfan himself. Go buy this. Go play it. Love it. Caress it. Hold it. Sing. Make sweet love to it at night.
Canoodle it. Yeah.
Canoodle. Do whatever you crazy kids do. So with that, we're going to go ahead and spin out. Thank you for joining us here on Neek Game Break again, the show where myself and another host from the show or a guest sit down and discuss the latest and greatest in AAA and indie gaming. Our next episode we're planning to do is going to be Doom. Probably when I get back in town. It's one that I was excited to sit down and play, and that I know Kiku is going to be sitting down to play. Right now, me, him, and Ray are planning to sit down and discuss it. The pros and cons. I know I have a drastically different view than a lot of people who have played it. So it's going to be a fun little. It's going to be a fun little powwow.
Yeah.
So until next time, I'm Josh. He's Nick. We just talked a lot about Nathan Drake, and keep it nerdy.
Yes.